I'm sorry, but I was angry with her. She just wasn't making any effort to move on. It had been over a year, and I couldn't move on until she did. Please don't think me hard or uncaring about her grieving. We're all grieving, but people die. Life has to go on, and Katie wouldn't let it. She wouldn't go out. She wouldn't work. She dropped all her past interests. It was as if losing her father brought her own life to a shuddering halt, and she couldn't function anymore. Come on, Katie, this isn't what he would have wanted, people said to her. And they were right. What father would want to see his daughter so crippled by grief? I can't help it, she'd say. I miss him so much. And then she would stumble out into the garden, consumed by her loss. She spent hours out there in the garden, just standing, looking. Maybe she was remembering carefully planting each seed and flower with the only man she had ever truly cared for. Boyfriends had come and gone, so had her 20s and 30s. It's a long time since I can remember her being in a relationship, and it makes me wonder how healthy it was to be so close to her dad. Dads and their daughters, eh? And you see why I was angry. Can you imagine what it felt like to watch her shuffling around the garden, looking so lost, so hopeless, and unable to break that destructive spell? And then, just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. A robin started to visit the garden, and Katie became convinced the little bird was a sign from heaven, that somehow her dead father would take avian form and try to communicate with her from beyond the grave. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her out of throwing her life on a funeral pyre that should have burned out long ago. So I watched Katie ignore the world around her and spend her days in the garden, hoping for her robin to appear. Sometimes she would spend all the daylight hours there, waiting for the robin and then whispering to him when he arrived. I wanted it to stop, but when the robin was there, she started to smile again. That smile that used to be a permanent fixture fleetingly returned when the robin alighted on a thin branch. She came alive again, just for a few moments, and the lost girl was briefly found. Sometimes I almost believed what she believed, that the robin was a messenger from heaven, sent to give her comfort. I almost believed because that's just what it did. But it only lasted for as long as the bird was there. Soon enough it flew away, and the spark in her eyes would fly with it, leaving her broken and tearful again. Then, just as I began to believe that Katie would never recover from the loss of her father, Hayley came home from Australia. Katie's best friend since they had been little girls, but on the other side of the world when she became broken. I watched their tearful reunion, and Katie pouring out her grief as if her loss had been yesterday instead of more than a year before. When Katie had finished talking, Hayley said, "You've had a terrible time, and I know it's hard, but you have to get back out into the world again." "I can't," said Katie. "He'd want you to." Katie shook her head. "He wouldn't. He comes to visit me in the garden, and if I wasn't at home, he would wonder where I was." "He visits you?" Hayley looked unsure of what to say. "A robin comes to the garden." Katie leaned forward and whispered, "But I know it's Dad." I saw that Hayley knew it wasn't the time to say anything else. She nodded, hugged Katie, then said that she wanted to stay for a couple of weeks so they could make up for the years apart. Over the following days, I watched Hayley patiently just being there. Most of the time, Katie didn't seem to remember Hayley was present, but she began to eat again. When she couldn't sleep, Hayley was there to hold her hand and talk to her until the sun came up and she wanted to dress and get into the garden to see her robin again. Day by day, I saw Hayley's presence slowly begin to pull Katie out of her despair. One morning, Hayley said, "Could I come into the garden with you?" Katie looked nervous. "What if you scare him away?" "Frank will remember me," said Hayley softly. "He was more of a dad to me than my own." Katie nodded, took Hayley's hand and led her into the garden. The bright morning sunlight reflected off the dew on the grass and heightened the colours of the flowers Katie and her dad had planted together. Hayley knew the garden wasn't as tidy as it always had been, but it still looked beautiful. "He's here," said Katy, pointing to a bush, and the robin sang. "He sounds happy," said Hayley. Katy looked doubtful, but before she could speak, Hayley said, "Maybe he comes to tell you that he's okay where he is now, and that it's okay for you to live again." Katy looked at the robin, and the bird looked right back at her. It seemed to nod to her. Then its singing stopped and it flew away. I saw Katy change in that moment. The weight of loss on her shoulders lifted, and the broken look in her eyes gave way to a sparkle I hadn't seen for such a long time. "He's gone," said Katy. Hayley took her hand. "He'll be back." "No, he's gone for good," said Katy. "I know it. You're right. He's been coming all this time to tell me that it's going to be okay. I just couldn't hear." I watched the two friends walk slowly back into the house and knew this time I didn't have to follow. I knew I could finally move on because Katy was going to be all right. I don't know where I'm going or what happens next. What I do know is that I can rest in peace knowing my daughter is going to start living again, and that my death didn't take her life too. That was And the Robin Sang by Tony Domaille, with thanks to freesfx.co.uk and JTP sponsors Bonds of Thornbury